March 3rd, 1876, a woman stepped outside her home in rural Bath County, Kentucky. Mrs. Crouch was in her yard when something began falling from the sky. At first, she may not have understood what she was seeing. The sky was clear, there was no storm, but small pieces of something were drifting down around her. They landed in the yard, on the fences, and according to those who saw it, it looked like meat. The strange shower reportedly covered an area roughly 100 yards long and 50 yards wide. Some pieces were small, others were several inches across. Witnesses described the substance as looking like beef. No one could explain where it came from. There were no animals in the sky, no explosion had been heard, and nothing unusual could be seen above the property. Soon word spread through the community. Something impossible had happened in Kentucky. Meat had fallen from the sky. As strange as the story already was, it became stranger. People came to examine the mysterious substance, and according to contemporary reports, 2 men actually tasted it. Their conclusion? It tasted like either mutton or venison. Samples were collected and preserved for examination. Scientists and doctors began studying the mysterious material. What they discovered deepened the mystery. At least some of the samples appeared to be actual animal tissue. Different theories emerged. One early explanation suggested the substance might be a strange gelatinous organism known as nostoc. Microscopic examinations reportedly identified something very different. Samples were described as muscle tissue, lung tissue, and cartilage. If those conclusions were correct, something had scattered pieces from an animal across a Kentucky farm. But that created an even bigger question. How could animal tissue fall from a perfectly clear sky? One explanation emerged that was as bizarre as the event itself. Vultures. One theory proposed that a flock of vultures had been flying high above the Crouch property. Vultures have a remarkable and unpleasant defense mechanism. When threatened or overloaded with food, they can disgorge the contents of their stomachs. If a group had done this while flying overhead, the wind could have scattered partially digested animal tissue across the countryside. It could explain the different types of tissue. It could explain the wide area, and why witnesses never saw where the meat came from. What really happened? More than a century later, the vulture theory remains the most common explanation. But no one witnessed a flock disgorging its meal that day. No definitive source of the tissue was ever established. And the strange event remains part science, part folklore, and completely bizarre. Something that looked like meat really did appear across a Kentucky farm. Perhaps the answer disappeared along with them. But whatever happened that day, history remembers it by one unforgettable name: the Kentucky meat shower.